U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Israel. It marks his first visit to the Middle East. He's already met with the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu discussing the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal. It also comes after Donald Trump made inflammatory comments about the Gaza Strip to clear it out of its population and for the U.S. to take possible ownership. Moments ago, the two men were delivering a press conference. Let's listen to some of the remarks they made.
I've said, and I'm going to repeat it again, because it's so true. President Trump is the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. Israel and America stand shoulder to shoulder in countering the threat of Iran. We agreed that the Ayatollahs must not have nuclear weapons. And we also agreed that Iran's aggression in the region has to be rolled back.
For more, we can speak to our correspondent, Noga Tarnopolsky. Hello to you, Noga. Benjamin Netanyahu calling Donald Trump the best friend Israel has ever had in the White House. I'm guessing the people of Gaza perhaps are concerned about what that means for their future and how to resolve the ceasefire and what's next in terms of phase two.
That's right. Although these statements that the two gentlemen made to the press without taking questions were really full of boilerplate, it must be said. The Prime Minister of Israel himself, in his own voice, said, as if this were a military strategy, that he is in coordination with the United States about when the gates of hell will open on Gaza. These are statements that, frankly, for anyone who observes the politics and even the military of this region, are very difficult to understand because we don't know what that means. Prime Minister Netanyahu was full of threats about what will happen to Gaza if all of the hostages, Israel's hostages still held by Hamas, are not released. And Secretary of State Rubio basically promised Israel support no matter what. But again, very few details have been shared with the public during these two statements.
Yeah, Marco Rubio said Hamas must be eliminated. Phase one of that ceasefire wrapping up in March. Phase two, it's very unclear when that would begin, but that was supposed to see, perhaps, hopefully, an end to the war. But if Hamas must be eliminated, we have no idea what's next, do we?
We don't. And there's a very strange element to these statements, because if you didn't know that today we were well into February of 2025, you might have thought that these were statements made back in October 2023. From these two men's statements, it sounded as if almost the war still has to begin. Hamas has to be eliminated. The hostages have to be rescued, as if there has not been any military advancement. This obviously contradicts completely the same Netanyahu government statements that say we've destroyed Hamas militarily. And so these statements, I think, are either going to disappear fairly quickly into the ether, and in which case, either will disappear into the ether or are going to have to be explained in some concrete way. What is very important, and I think will frighten not only the residents of Gaza, but very much the families of Israeli hostages, is that while the United States mediated this ceasefire agreement and Israel signed onto it, it does appear that both parties are willing to at least threaten that they will abandon it and that there will not be a phase two. And if that is the case, then we should assume that Israel is planning really, truly to re-engage in a full-blown war in Gaza against what is left of Hamas and against Gazan citizenry that is trapped there. And that the remaining Israeli hostages there are unlikely to survive.
Yeah, and only adding to that sense of fear and concern, Noga, which you pointed out, this shipment of heavy bombs, U.S. heavy bombs that arrived in Israel overnight.
Yes, and again, this is something that Marco Rubio sort of came to Israel to welcome. But it's important to ask the question, since Israel is in a ceasefire right now with Hezbollah in its north and with Hamas in its south, what is the purpose of these bombs? Is it a deterrent purpose to try and stave off any future Iranian adventures in this region? Or is this preparation for something much worse than what we've seen already? Again, despite the almost total Israeli military destroyal of Hamas in Gaza.
Yeah, Noga, you and I are not alone in saying there are more questions than answers right now, but thank you very much, Noga Tarnopolsky, reporting there.